Welcome to this first session of the new series Bhagavad Gita Overview, where we'll be seeing what is the crux of the divine message of Sri Krishna for us, all of us. Today in this session, we'll talk about the first and second Adhyaya. Let's start with the prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Our scriptures are our hidden treasures. Our original scriptures, the Vedas, are actually the manual for mankind, irrespective of the religion, race, time. It is like a God-given manual when human beings were created. And that's why these scriptures are called Apaurushaya. They're not created by humans, they are created by the divine. Amongst the Vedas, 80% is almost the karma kand, what we need to do, what should we do within Nished, what are the right karmas, how they should be done, what is dharma, according to dharma, how should we perform our karmas. About 15% is the bhakti or upasana kand, and about 5% of the final part of the Veda is called Upanishads, and that is the knowledge path of to reach to the divine or the supreme. And this part, the final part is called the Upanishads, and Upanishads are part of the Vedas, and this tells us that ultimately the knowledge is the supreme and it's the only way to achieve the divine. And this part is called the Vedanta. And Bhagavad Gita is the summary of the Upanishads. That same knowledge that is given in the Upanishads is given as a crux, as a summary in the Bhagavad Gita. How Bhagavad Gita is unique? It is very simple as compared to Upanishads, which are much more profound. In short words, they will tell you something which is difficult for us normal people to understand. Even within the words, there will be hidden meaning in the Upanishads, whereas in Bhagavad Gita, it is more simplified for regular people like us. But still, the meaning is quite deep. There are pearls. Every time we listen to Bhagavad Gita, we recite, we chant, we understand, we get newer and newer meanings. Every time we have a problem in life, we can go to Gita and it will tell us the solution. That is what Mahatma Gandhi had said. And it is as relevant as ever. It is as relevant as it was 10,000 years ago. Today also it is as relevant. It is like a practical manual of life, how we should live our life. And it is very sweet, beautiful. It is never boring. Even we can go in again and again. It's a friendly dialogue between one Sakha, Krishna and Arjuna. Now, of course, they are Guru Shishya. Krishna is Bhagavana and Arjuna is his Shishya. So the background is the battlefield of Mahabharata, where Bhagavad Gita is told to Arjuna, and then it is part of the Mahabharata Granth, that is the treasure, that is the historical Granth. And it is a battle of Dharma Yuddha between the Pandavas and the Kauravas for the Hastinapur. And they are all the descendants of the Kuru dynasty. The main message here is that we should use our understanding, the right intellect, take the side of the Dharma, what is the right thing to do, and ultimately victory will come to us. And this is a golden opportunity in our human life to improve, to understand this, to make changes in our life, to do better karma, satkarma, and improve our birth, not just this birth, but the next birth. In this body alone, we can accumulate this dharma by our deeds, by our karma, and improve our life. And the spiritual message is that there is an inner battle. There is no battle outside, but there is an inner battle going on between our virtues, our Devi Sampatti, what I need to do, what is the right thing to do, versus our Asuri Sampatti, what I like to do, something that I just love to do, but it may not be the right thing to do. And this battle is constant, and our goal is to harness our Devi Sampatti, to increase them and let go gradually of our vices or dissolve the Asuri Sampatti. So Srimad Bhagavad Gita consists of about 700 shlokas, and we will touch upon each and every shloka, and that's why I request all the listeners to please listen intently, carefully, in our larger screen with the utmost concentration without any divergence. The first Adhyaya is the Arjuna Vishada Yoga, which talks about the Arjuna sorrow, his misery, how it happens, what is the root cause of the problems in our life. And then comes the second Adhyaya, the Sankhya Yoga, which is the message of Bhagavad Gita. Shri Krishna talks about the divine knowledge, the supreme knowledge, the Jnana, Updesha of Shri Bhagavad Gita. And then Bhagavan talks about the Karma Yoga, Updesha. And then finally talks about the wise person. What are his attributes? How we can know which person is a wise Sthita Prajna. And then from the 3rd to the 17th Adhyaya, there is detailed description of different subjects. Jiva, Tat, the Paramatma, what is about the Jagata, how we should live, what should be our vision. All this, there is a detailed description of our Traigunya, our three gunas, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. All the different Adhyayas have different subjects. And finally, in the 18th Adhyaya, Bhagavan Shri Krishna again summarizes the entire message and gives the crux of the message in the 18th Adhyaya. So let us start with the first Adhyaya, which is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. It is Arjuna's grief, and it is a very important Adhyaya because it forms the background of the story before the message. And it goes like a story, but it is very important to understand because it lets us understand the psychology of both the sides, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. It also lets me understand my own mind, how I work, how I need to improve in life, and this tug of war between the Daivi and the Asuri Sampatti, and who is the real candidate. Arjuna, who is, who has Shraddha, who has faith in the Dharma. He is an undecided person. He lands up in a confusion, in a struggle, and that is when his attachments become the root cause of his miseries, and Shri Krishna brings him out of these problems by giving him the right understanding. So the summary of the first Adhyaya is that first 10 or 11 shlokas are devoted towards description of both the armies who are there on both the sides, the Pandava side and the Kaurava side. The next about 8 to 9 shlokas are that the conches, the Shankha, Nada, that is the conches are blown, and which signifies that the battle is now started. And then Arjuna tells Krishna that I want to see the Kaurava army. Please take my chariot to the center of the battlefield. And when he sees all the relatives, he gets attached to his own relatives, and he develops Vishada, sorrow, Moha, attachment, which are the root cause of problems, and that is the background of the entire message which is going to unfold in the second Adhyaya. So the first shloka starts with Dhritarashtra, who opens the statement, and he tells Sanjaya. Sanjaya is the person who is describing the Mahabharata Yuddha war from the battlefield of Dharmakshetra. Dhritarashtra is blind, he cannot see. Sanjay has been given the Divya Chakshu, the divine vision by Veda Vyasa, and that's why Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra uvacha dharmakshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamakah pandavaschaiva kimakurvata Sanjaya. So Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya. He says, "Oh Sanjaya, on the battlefield of Mahabharata, all those who have gathered for this battle, what are my Mamaka Pandavaschaiva? My and Pandu's sons, what are they doing?" He wants to know what is happening there. And this itself shows that Dhritarashtra has a lot of attachment to his own self and his own sons and his own relatives, and he considers the Kauravas as not his own. And this Bheda Buddhi, this differentiation, is the root cause of Mamata, the Moha, delusion, attachments, and that is the problem. And that's why Dhritarashtra is also called Mohanda. He was blind, and that's why this Mahabharata battle happened. Otherwise, if he would have given half of the kingdom to Pandavas, nothing would have happened. Everything would have been solved amicably. And the purpose of Gita Ji is only to nivritta, to let go of this moha, attachment, have the right understanding. In our scriptures, this is called Shadlinga Vichara. That any scripture, when it starts, what is the upakrama, what is the beginning, and what is the upasamhara. In Bhagavad Gita also, in the last 18th Adhyaya, Bhagavan asks Arjuna whether your moha has been destroyed or not. And Arjuna replies, said, Nashto moha sputir labdva. Yes, my moha has gone now, it is nashta, it is destroyed. I have now come back to my senses. I know what is the right thing to do. And that means that upakrama and upasamhara both are pointing towards moha nivrutti, and that is the main purpose of Bhagavad Gita. And then Sanjay starts describing the Pandava army. He says Duryodhana is going closer to the Drona, his teacher. And this king Duryodhana, he talks about seeing the Pandava army in formation. He speaks these words. So Sanjay is now describing that Duryodhana is now describing the Pandava army. He says to Drona, he says, "O Drona, O teacher, please see this large army of Pandava which is gathered here in the formation and which is led by Drupada. Drupada's son, Drishtadyumna, was the commander-in-chief of the Pandava army. And Drupada and Drona had a bitter animosity of their previous times, and that's what Duryodhana is trying to ignite or invoke into Drona, and that's why he says these words. And he then shows the main warriors of the Pandava army. Duryodhana is describing to Drona. He says there are many great warriors like Bhima, Arjuna, Satyaki, King Virata, King Drupada, and many other great warriors. And says there are Drishtaketu, who is son of Shishupala, Chekitana, king of Kashi, Kunti Bhoja, Shaibya, and Narapungava. All these warriors were in the part of Pandava army. Yudhamanyu, Vikranta, who was the king of Panchala, Uttamoja, Abhimanyu, who is Subhadra's son, 5 sons of Draupadi, and all other great warriors. And now Duryodhana is showing his own Kaurava warriors to Drona. He says, "Oh, Dvijottama, oh great Brahmin, my teacher, in our army also I'm going to tell you Mama Sainyaste, my own army." He's saying that it shows his attachment, and he's telling Drona that Tan Bravimite, Sangyartham, for your knowledge I'm showing you. Of course, Drona knows who are the warriors of their own army, but this shows that he has a disrespect for his own guru, and this shows the personality of Duryodhana. And Duryodhana then names the leaders of his own army, the Kaurava army. He says Bhishma, Karna, Krupacharya, their guru, Ashwathama, who is Drona's son, Vikarna, who is brother of Duryodhana, Somadatti's son, Purushrava. All these are part of the Kaurava army. And he said, apart from all these, there are many, many great warriors who have different types of weapons, Nana Shastra Praharanaha, and they are expert in the Yuddha Visharda, they are expert in warfare, those who are part of my army. This shows the pride and the ego of Duryodhana. And then he compares the two armies and says, Aparyaptam Tadasmakam. Our army is unlimited, he says, which is guarded Bhishma Abhirakshitam. It is guarded by Bhishma, none other than the great Bhishma. And their army, says, Paryaptam Pidamayetesham. Their army is limited, which is guarded by Bhima. Obviously, it shows that he is worried about Bhima. He has the fear of Bhima, and that's why he says. And this also shows that he has a lot of overconfidence in his own army. He knows that Krishna is on the opposite side, but still, because their army had a much larger strength, they had 11 Akshavahini Sena in compared to Pandavas who have the 7 Akshavahini Sena, and that's why he thought that our army is much bigger and stronger. And Duryodhana tells his army to protect Bhishma from all around. He says, please protect Bhishma Pitama from all around, because Bhishma was a great warrior. He had Ichha Mrityu. He could have a desired death whenever he wanted. And that's why Duryodhana had a great faith in Bhishma Pitama that he will be able to destroy the opposite army. And then now the Shankhanada, the blowing of the conches begin. The war is beginning. This shows. And then the first who is blowing the conch, Bhishma Pitama. He roars like a lion and blows his conch very loudly to intimidate the opposite army. That is a strategy that they employ in the war. And then there is a loud noise by beating of drums and a lot of other instruments, Panavanaka, Go, Mukhaha, all these they beat very loudly, producing a deafening noise. And then the Pandavas also now start blowing their conches. The first, Krishna and Arjun, those who are seated on a divine white chariot with white horses, they blow their divine conches. Rishikesha, Krishna blows his conch, and these conches are named, they have their own conches. And Rishikesh, Bhagavan Krishna's conch is Panchajanya, Arjuna's conch is Devadatta, Bhima, his conch is Poundra, Shankha, Tadatmato. And then Kunti, Yudhishthira blows his Ananta Vijaya conch, Nakula, Sagosha, and Sahadev, Mani Pushpika. These are all the conches. The king of Kashi, Shikhandi, Drushtadumna, Virata, Satyatigi, they blow their conches. And all this, Drupada, Saubhadra's son, Abhimanyu, they all blow their conches. This produces a thunderous sound, and all the Kauravas are shaken up by this thunderous sound, which spreads all across, even in the skies. And now, from the 20th shloka, Arjuna is starting to prepare for the war. He lifts his Dhanurudyamya Pandava. He lifts his Gandiv. Gandiv is his bow, which is a beautiful, one of the finest bows ever. And then he lifts and is prepares to start the war. He has come to fight the war. He's very confident, and he tells Rishikesha is Krishna. His name He says, "Oh Achyuta, Senayoru Bhayoru Madhye, Ratham Stapayamechyuta." Oh Achyuta, oh Krishna, please take my chariot to the center of the battlefield in between both armies and be steady there. Ratham Stapaya. I want to see Yavadeta Niriksheham. I want to see all these opposite armies with whom I have to fight the battle. He says, I want to see the opposite army and I want to see all those who have gathered here who are well-wishers. Durbuddhe, he says. Dhritarashtrasya. That means those Kauravas whose intellect is distorted. They have come to fight a battle with us for the dharma, and that he now thinks that they are all distorted buddhi. Their buddhi is not correct. That is what he feels so far. And then Krishna takes the chariot to the center of the battlefield, and Sanjay is telling Dhritarashtra, see that Krishna parks the divine chariot in both the center of the battlefield. And then Krishna tells Arjuna that Kurun Pashya, he says, see all these Kurus, he says, those who have come from all the sides, Kaurava army, which is led in front by Bhishma, Drona, and all the kings, you see all this. And this is the defining moment in the war, because when Krishna has put this prick into this balloon of Arjuna, all this, his air is blown down actually, and Krishna doesn't tell him to see all the warriors of the opponent side. He says, Kurun Pashya, he says, watch all this, see all this Kaurava. Arjun, instead of seeing all his opponents or warriors, starts seeing all his relatives in the opponent army. He sees his uncle, grandfather, all his brothers, sisters, grandson, friends, father-in-law, and all these relatives who are present and come. He sees all these relatives. And then he develops Krapaya Paraya Vishtava. He develops a deep compassion. Krapaya. But this compassion is not out of love, but this is out of his attachment that he's developing. He's filled with despair. Vishidantamidam pravit. And he speaks these words to Krishna. He says, Arjuna is now describing his condition. He's developing a stress response. He's developing attachment. He doesn't know what to do. And he's describing, Sidanti mama gatrani. My limbs have become very weak. My mouth has become dry. My body is trembling. I have goosebumps. I have a lot of stress. He's telling Krishna, Gandivam sransate hastat. My Gandiv is slipping from my hands. My skin is burning a lot. I'm not able to understand what is going. My mind is going round and round in whirls. I don't know what is happening, he says. And it's describing in his condition in very simple words. It's very simple, there is no dichotomy, there is no hypocrisy. He doesn't want to say that I'm not upset. He tries to tell Krishna that I'm very upset. And he talks about now the opposite result of war. He says, Pashyami viparitani Keshava. He's seeing the opposite side. Now he's not seeing the right vision. His vision is colored because of mamata, moha. And he says, I'm seeing all the opposite women. I don't see any benefit in killing my relatives. And now Arjuna develops dispassion. He wants to run away from the battlefield. And this dispassion, this vairagya is not the true vairagya, because this is not born out of the right understanding, but this is born out of only, a bhagedu vritti, or just want to run away from the problems, that is, and attachment and mamata, moha in the root. So this is the temporary. He says, I don't want to fight. I don't want to become victorious. I don't want any kingdom. I don't want all these pleasures of this life. He says, I don't want to fight the battle. Arjuna's vision is changed. He says, for all these people who are standing here, why have we come here to fight the battle? Krishna keeps on listening to all that Arjuna is lamenting, justifying, describing. He describes all his relatives again. Arjuna says, see my father-in-law, all my grandsons, brother-in-law, they are all there. I don't want to fight. Even though I get killed, even then I don't want to fight this battle, he says. And then his mind is clouded. He says, these people are all the wrongdoers. Why should we do the sin for fighting this battle? He now considers that fighting this battle is a sin. Actually, this is a dharma yuddha. It is the right thing for him to do. But now he's seeing all the opposite, the viparit, drashti. And he's saying that these are all by killing these wrongdoers will only get sin. And he says, by killing the relatives, how can we be happy, Krishna? There is no point in killing all these relatives. And he says, he gives a lot of different reasons. He says, Kulakshaya Krutam Dosham. For this also blame of destruction of the Kula Nasha, Kulakshaya or Kula Nasha, and Mitra Droha, betraying our friends. I don't want to fight this war. He says, I see that Kulakshaya Krutam Dosha. He says the entire family will get destroyed. And once a family gets destroyed, Kulakshaya Nasha, then the perennial lineage, the Kula Dharma, the perennial lineage that is going on, the Dharma in the family, in the Parampara, that also Sanatan Dharma will also get destroyed. And then Adharma will rise. Adharma, when it rises, the Kulastriya Pradushyanti. He says the the females or the ladies in the in the kula, in the dynasty will become immoral, and when they become immoral, then there will be jayate varana sankara, that culturally a mixed race will be created. And he says that when sankaro narakaya, when this is created, adharma will rise, there will be sins, and even the patanti pitaru yesham, all the ancestors will also not be given their proper pitru arpana, their the rituals will not be done, all this. And Arjuna has a lot of faith in dharma and in dharma vyavastha, the sanatana dharma it shows. And then he says, because of this varna sankara, all this kula dharma will be destroyed. Varna sankara praja, mixed race will be created, and this will lead to uprootment of the kula dharma nasha, shashvataha, which has been going on for ages. All this jati dharma also will be destroyed. And Arjuna then justifies by giving many reasons. He says, we will all go to hell. I've heard that this is what happens if we do this kind of war, then we will go to hell. And then this for the greed, for the sin. Oh, aho bata mahat papam. He says, oh alas, my God, why are we gathered here to do such a big sin, committing this greed for the kingdom and for happiness? We are willing to kill our near and dear ones, he says. And then Arjuna says, it is better to be killed rather than killing the other person, and that will be beneficial for me. And finally, in the final shloka of the first Adhyaya, Sanjaya Uvacha Eva Muktva Arjuna Sankhe Rathopastha Visha Upavishata Visrujya Sasharam Chapam Shokasam Vigna Manasaha. Arjuna decides against the war. Sanjaya is telling Dhritarashtra that having said this, Arjuna goes to the backside of the his chariot, Rathopastha Upavishata. He goes down, sits down, Visujra Sasharam Chapam, puts down his bow and arrow, is filled, Shoka Samvigna Manasa, his mind is filled with a lot of shoka, a lot of despair, sorrow, and that he now doesn't want to fight this war. He has finally relieved himself. Now he is sitting there. That is the end of the first Adhyaya, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Om Tat Sata iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyayaha. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Sankhya Yogo Nama Dvitiyodhyayaha. Welcome to the second Adhyaya, which is called Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means the knowledge path. And here, Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives us the divine message. The main subject of the second Adhyaya is how we can lead to the end of all of the pain and suffering. Arjuna, at the end of the first Adhyaya, is in sorrow, great miseries. He has a lot of shoka. And from this, how we can understand, how we can reach the Param Ananda, the avastha of eternal bliss. And the goal to understand is the real knowledge, the divine knowledge of this cosmos. What is the real self? Who am I? And this Atma Jnana, this Jnana of this divinity will relieve us from freedom from all our limitations, which is called moksha in our Shastra. And this is nothing but understanding that there is one essence, one adhisthana behind everything in this universe, Jiva, Jagata, Ishvara. Behind everything there is just one adhisthana, and that adhisthana, as our Shastras call it, it is Brahma, Brahman, or our own self as we understand it, it is called Atman. And this Atma or Brahma is nothing but the same thing seen from a different perspective, and that is what we need to understand. And the path to reach this divinity, which is also called the spiritual journey or the sadhana, requires the Karma Yoga as the first step, which is described in the second Adhyaya. Bhakti Yoga is also part of Karma Yoga, not separately described, but it is part and parcel of Karma Yoga here. And Jnana Yoga, the Jnana Sadhana also, Bhagavan Shri Krishna is describing. And then our scriptures describe that there are two paths, Pravrutti Marga, householder's path, and the Nivrutti Marga, the renunciate path. Both are, conducive to attain the divine. Of course, the Nivrutti part, renunciate mark, is the much better because it gives a complete, focus, and total time is devoted to this goal. But even in the Pravrutti Marga, one can attain the divine living in this world itself. And in the Nivrutti Marga, only very few people are eligible for the Nivrutti Marga. So let us look at the second Adhyaya, short summary. First 7 shlokas is all about Arjuna continues to describe his condition, gives excuses, and then he becomes disciple of Krishna in the 7th shloka. That is the defining point. And then from the 11th shloka, Shri Krishna starts his message, the sacred teachings of the Atman and the Anatma. What is Atma? What is Anatma? What is that absolute reality in this world? What is that non-reality? What is illusion? What is that non-reality? All this. And then later from the worldly angle, what is the irrelevance of having sorrow? He describes and then gives the Dharma Utesh from the 31st shloka, starts about what is the right thing to do, what is our Kartavya, what is the Dharma. And then from 39 shloka starts the Karma Yoga message, how we can embark on this journey, how we can do Karma Yoga, what are the Karmanya Vadikaraste, that is the 47th shloka of the second Adhyaya. And then describes finally the Sthita Prajna, the person who is wise, firmly, who is seated in wisdom, that Sthita Prajna Purusha, how, what are his attributes, what are his characteristics, how does he operate, how does he live, how does he conduct in this world, all this Bhagavan talks. And finally, in the last two shlokas, gives us the ultimate goal of mankind, what we need to achieve in our life. So let's start with the first shloka of the second Adhyaya. Sanjaya Uvacha Tam Tatha Kripaya Vishtham Ashrupurna Kulekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudana. Sanjay is now describing, he says, is describing Arjuna's condition to Dhritarashtra. He says, engulfed with all this compassion, krupaya, paraya, Vishtam, and with Ashrupurna collection, with tears in his eyes, Arjuna is now, to whom Krishna is starting to say something. So these are the first words of Bhagavan Shri Krishna in Gita Ji. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupasthitam Anarya Chustamasvargyam Akirtim Karam Arjuna. Arjuna, Bhagavan Shri Krishna tells him that your attitude is not proper, what you're thinking, what you're seeing is not the right thing. And how did you get this kind of a despair, Kashmala, Vishame Samupasthitam? At this time in the battlefield, when you are ready to fight the war, you are now Anarya Chustam Aswargyam. It does not befit you like an Aryan. It's not befitting you, and it will not lead you to the greater lokas like the heaven, Swarga. Akirtim Kara. It will lead you to disrepute. You will gain a lot of blemish in your life for this kind of attitude. And next shloka, Bhagavan uses some harsh words. He says, he says, Arjuna, don't be unmanly. This does not befit you. Let go of all this Shudram Hridaya Daurpalyam, all these weak-minded emotions. You please let go. Get up and fight this war. That is your duty. You have to get up. You can't just sit like that in the backside of the chariot. And then Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna starts saying, gives his own reasons and justification. He says, how can I fight with Bhishma and Drona with my arrows? He says, they are worthy of my devotion. They are not worthy of my arrows. He says, and he continues to justify his position, saying that in this world, it is better to renounce this world and go and beg for alms rather than killing Bhishma, Drona, my great teachers, and all these possessions. Even if I fight and win, all these useless possessions, material pleasures, they are all will be stained with blood. There is of no use for me. I don't want to fight this war. And then Arjuna again shows his dilemma. He shows his confusion. I don't know what is a better thing to do, whether we will win over them or they will win over us. And for all these Dhritarashtra's son, those who are standing here, I don't wish to live. He is now. And then finally in the 7th shloka, he surrenders to Krishna and he says, filled with all the faint-heartedness, I'm asking you, I'm confused. Pruchhami tvam dharma sammuta chetaha. I don't know what is the right thing to do. I'm confused about dharma. What is the right thing to do? Yachesha nishchitam bruhitam. You tell me what is the most beneficial, the shreya, what is the kalyankari for me. Shishyateham shadhimam tvam prapannam. He says, I accept to become your disciple, to be your shishya. Shadimam means you teach me, you govern me. Tvam prapannam, you tell me, I surrender to you. I'm at your end. He doesn't know. His confusion again continues. He says, I can't see what will relieve my sadness, which has dried my senses. And after this, winning this prosperous kingdom also, I don't know what I will do. And then finally, he tells, Arjuna says, I don't want to fight this Nayotsir. He says, I don't want to fight. He finally declares that I don't want to fight this war. Iti Govinda Muktva Tushnim Babuha. He stops speaking, becomes quiet. Krishna has been listening to him intently so far. And now Arjuna waits for Krishna to start saying. And Krishna prepares for his message in the 10th shloka. Prahasanniva iva bharata. as if he's smiling. He thinks that, oh, he's smiling at Arjuna in the battlefield when Arjuna is become despair with a lot of sorrow. He's so upset. Krishna is like smiling, and there are a lot of people giving different meanings of why Krishna is smiling. This is not the right time to go into it because there will be, several different meanings. But from the center of the army, Krishna prepares for his message. From the 11th shloka, Bhagavan starts his divine message. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyananvashocastvam Pragnavadanshcha bhashase Gatasunagatasungscha Nanushocanti panditaha. Krishna says, Arjuna, you are feeling sad for something that is not worth feeling sad for. And you are speaking like a wise man. Pragnavadanscha bhashase. For the people who have left us, Gatasuna, or those who have not yet left us, those who are with us, Agatasunscha, Nanu Shochanti Panditaha. Wise people don't grieve. And if you have grief and if you have sorrow, it means you don't have wisdom, you don't have the right understanding. Only then you will have grief and sorrow. That is what Krishna says. It's like a big blow onto Arjuna, who is now filled with sorrow, and Krishna starts describing the entire divine message. First talks about how all of us are eternal. He talks about the Atma Swarupa, the Sat Swarupa, which is Nitya, which is eternal. He says there is no time that neither I was there nor you were not there. And all these kings who are standing in front of us were not there. We have been there all the time. We have been there in the past. We are now seen and will be there in the future. So we are all Nitya. And he says the wise people do not grieve because they understand that this body goes through all the different stages of life. They get birth, become a child, become a young adult, old age, and there is a death. And then there is another body which it takes up. So this is how wise people, they have this right understanding. And because of this, they do not get moha or delusion. They have the right understanding. And Arjuna, he tells Arjuna, Arjuna must be thinking, oh, I have to live this, and you are talking about wise people and this and that. What about my own problem in front of my teacher, my grandfather? They are standing in front. How can I fight this war? And Bhagavan tells him, Matras Shastu Kaunteya. This life has lots of ups and downs. Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha. All these dualities are part of life. Agama Payinaha Nitya. They are Agama, they come and go. They are all transient. And they are Anitya. They are all transient. They are Anitya. They will come and go. You have to dance Titiksha Bharata. You have to undergo them. You have to endure them. Titiksha means Sahanshilta. You have to Sahan karna hai. You have to endure them. There is no way. There will be lots of ups and downs in your life. You do whatever is best for you. Do your duty. But then finally you have to accept it. You have to endure this kind of ups and downs of life. It's a beautiful message of Bhagavad Gita that Bhagavan is giving us, and tells about Samatva, how we can remain equipoised, unperturbed in all the situations. He says those wise people, those viveki, those discriminating people, those who remain equanimous in samasukha dukkam dhiram, they remain same. They are only the people who are eligible for this Atma Jnana and Moksha. So that is the journey. One has to have this kind of samatva, and Atma Jnana can only come after Antakarana Shuddhi. There is purity of the inner mind. Only then we can understand this knowledge. And that is the sadhana. And then he gives a real description of what is the reality of this existence and non-existence. He says, there is no existence of illusion in this world. Whatever we see, whatever is asat, there is no existence. Uska koi adhishtan nahi hai. But there is no non-existence of the reality. Sat has always a bhav. It is always there. There is no abhava of sat. And those wise people are there who have seen this reality in clarity. They know what is sat, what is asat. They know what is the reality, what is an illusion, and what this clarity is there. That person is a wise person. And then he tells Arjuna to see the indestructible. Avinashi tu tadviddhi. Know that you are Avinashi, Atma. You are indestructible. And this, behind all that you see destructible, changing world, try to see the indestructible Atman, or the Sat Tattva, which is not possible to be destroyed by anything. That is the reality. That is the Sat Tattva. That is the Atma Tattva. And then he talks about the Anatma. What is not the Atma? He says Deha. Antavanta ime Deha. He says this body will come to an end. It keeps changing. It will come to an end. And then it will, for Anashina Prameyasya. But this Atman, which holds the body, which is the Adhisthana, is indestructible. It cannot be understood by any evidence, aprameya, because it cannot be understood by any evidence, the Swayam Prakasha, and that's why Tasmad Yuddhasva Bharata, that's why you should fight this battle. And then it tells Arjuna, this Atma does not kill anyone, it does not get killed. You think that you are trying to kill others, Bhishma, Drona, but it is not, you are not your body, Arjuna, you are your Atman. Atma doesn't kill, does not get killed. In Vedanta, Atma is Akarta by Swarupa, it is non-doer. It is only this body, this Anatma, is as all the Kartrutva and Karta is in through the Anatma. And then he says how Atma is changeless, it is never born, it is never dies. Na jayate na mriyate va kadachit. These are all very, very well-known shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. He says Atma is never born, it never dies, it never comes or comes into existence. It is ajaha, it is unborn, it is nitya, it is eternal, it is shashvata purana, it is the same, ever fresh. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Even if then the body gets killed, the Atma does not get killed. So Bhagavan is giving the Atma, Anatma, Updesha, the discrimination between what is Atman and what is not the Atman. He says, Veda Vinashinam Nityam. What is, who knows, one who knows that this Atma is indestructible, eternal, unborn, changeless, that person will not kill anyone, he will not get killed also. By this right understanding, there is no Kartrutva and there is no doership feeling. That's why you are not the doer, and then no other path or punya gets applied to you. And then 22nd shloka is another well-known shloka. Vasansi jirinani yatha vihaya navani brahanati naroparani. Just as a person sheds off all the clothes and wears new clothes, similarly tatha sharirani vihaya jirinani. When this body becomes old, anyani sanyati nayani devi, it enters, it leaves its body, then jivatma, and this jivatma or the sukshma sharira goes to the another body and accepts or enters into this new body. That is how this keeps on. The law of karma, according to this karma phala, we accept or we go and have the new body. This is how the samsara chakra continues, and that is what Bhagavan Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna. And then he shows to Arjuna how the Atma is indestructible, the nature of the Atma. Nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dahati pavakaha. This Atma cannot be destroyed by weapons, cannot be burned by fire, cannot be soaked by water, cannot be dried by wind. It is the basis of all. It achedyoyam adhyoyam. It cannot be destroyed or burnt, cannot be soaked or dry. It is eternal. It is all pervading. It is stable, immovable, and eternal. And it has no attributes. It has no names, no structures. It is avyaktaha. It is unmanifest. It cannot be seen. It cannot be perceived by the chakshu, indriya, shotrendriya. It cannot be heard, because it is through which the eyes see. It is through which the ears listen. Our Upanishads tell us that this is the Atma Swarupa, and it is achintyo yam. It cannot be thought, because thought is being done by the mind, but the Atma is behind the mind. It is through the Atma that mind is able to think, and that's why mind cannot perceive the Atman, and that's why it is changeless, and that's why one who knows this Atman really in reality has no reason to grieve, and that is our eternal real self. And now Bhagavan is trying to tell Arjuna based on his belief. Even if you believe, if you don't understand this absolute reality, okay. But now, according to your belief, you believe that Atma is born, it is dies, you believe that you are the Atma. And then even if you believe this, there is no reason for you to grieve, because this is the reality. Jatasya dhruvam, because one who is born is destined to die, one who dies is destined to be reborn. Even something for which nothing can be done. Why do you want to grieve, Arjuna? Is telling Arjuna that accept whatever is there, that you cannot change, you have to accept, and that's why also you should fight this war. And don't be attached to the transient. Avyaktadini bhutani vyakta madhyani bharata. He says only we are manifest only in this life. Before that we were unmanifest. After our death also we become unmanifest. In this world, when we accept this body, then only we become manifest. And for this also, why do you have to feel tatraka paridevana? Why do you have to feel sad about this? This is just is giving a very big picture of our life. And then Atma is wonder, all the Ascharyavat Paschati, everything Ascharyavat, Kaschidenam, Ascharyavat Vadati Tathaiva Chanya, everything is Atma, is a wonder. One who looks at it, the seer, one seeker who wants to listen about it, one describes it, and most of the people, they will listen to it, but still they will not be able to understand. That is also wonder, because it is part of our own self. It is our own self. Even then we don't understand it. That itself is a huge wonder, and all these hidden secrets are always a wonder. That is what Bhagavan Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna. And he says, summarizing the Atma Anatma Vivek, he says, in all this body, the Atma is indestructible. And for any of these reasons, there is no reason for you to grieve, Arjuna. And this comes to the end of the Atma Jnana. And now Shri Krishna is describing Arjuna from the Dharma Drashti, from a relative standpoint, that whatever is your duty, you must do your duty. You are a Kshatriya, you are a warrior, you have to fight this war. This is a Dharma Yuddha, and for this there is no greater chance for you than fighting this righteous battle, Dharma Yuddha. And it says Yadruchaya Chopapannam. Whatever comes to you, Yadruchaya. Yadruchaya means by luck or chance, or you can say by the grace of God, whatever comes to us, we should, it will open the gates of heaven for you. It is a win-win situation. Even this kind of battle comes only to very lucky warriors. You have a chance to prove yourself and accept what comes to you. And this is a great message for us. Whatever comes to us by luck, chance, whatever is our duty, we should accept it gracefully as prasada, as God's gift to us. And then Bhagavan is now giving him a little warning. So far he is trying to inspire Arjuna to fight this war. Now he is telling him, if you don't fight this war, what will happen? He says, if you don't engage in this battle, then you will lose all your duty, your honor. Sangramam na karishyasi. If you don't fight this war, akirtim hatva, your kirti, your great pride, your honor will be destroyed. Papam avapsasi, and you will also get papa, get sin. And then he says, akirtim chapi bhutani, you will have a lot of disgrace, infamy for a long time to come. People will talk about you that, he ran away, he didn't fight. And he says, for a person like, honorable person like you, that akirtim, chakirtim, maranadati vichyate, death, disgrace is greater than death. You will have such a bad time in your life if you run away from this battlefield. And this bhayat ranaduparatam, people will believe that you ran away because of fear. And this, you will fall in the esteem of others. And this disrepute is really deplorable, he is telling Arjuna. And this disrespect, avache vadanshta bahun, vadishyanti tavahita, people will talk so much about you. They will speak bad words about you. They will disrespect your courage. They will be, and that will be very painful. Tato dukkha nukim. And there will be no better, bigger pain than this for you, Arjuna. It's very difficult for you to live this life. He's trying to explain Arjuna. And then he says, Atova prapsasi swargam. Even if you die, you'll go to heaven. Jitva va bhokshase mahim. But if you win, you'll enjoy this kingdom. On each side, other side, it's a win-win situation for you. He's trying to explain Arjuna that you must fight this war. Tasmad uttishta kaunteya Adhyaya pritanishchaya. You must get up, make your mind firm that you have to fight this war, Arjuna. You can't just sit down and go away, run away from the battlefield like this. And Krishna is often misunderstood in Gitaji, and people say that he's trying to incite Arjuna to fight the war, and that's why he's inciting violence. It's absolutely a wrong interpretation of Gitaji. Bhagavan Shri Krishna believes in ahimsa, paramo dharma. All our Shastra believes in violence as is completely deprecated. Non-violence is something that is celebrated in our Shastra. But here Arjuna had come to fight this war. This is a war for dharma. This is a righteous war, and he became moha. He developed delusion, and he didn't want to fight the war. So Krishna is trying to explain Arjuna the correct message is for the moha nivrutti. He's not trying to incite that tasmad uttishta kaunteya, tasmad prutanishchaya, you fight this war. He's not saying you have to fight this war. He's trying to tell him that this is the right understanding, this is your current duty, and that is the correct interpretation of Gitaji. And then he says, be equipoised in all situations. Now he's trying to explain Arjuna, not only you have to fight the war, but with what attitude you have to fight the war. Fighting the war means doing our duty. Essentially, we must see this as how we should do our duty, with what kind of internal attitude. He says, by being equipoised in all situations, by being same in the pleasure, pain, success, failure, profit, loss. Because when we live in this world, there will be success, there will be failures, there will be profit, sometimes there will be loss. In all this pleasure, pain, all these situations of life, we have to be equipoised. Sukha dukkhe same krutva, labha labho, jaya jayo. Says tato yuddhaya. This is how you have to fight this battle. And this are the sowing of the seeds of karma yoga. Now there is a little change in the topic that Bhagavan Shri Krishna is telling Arjuna. And he now begins the message of the karma yoga. He says, Eshate bhikita sankhya. So far, I've told you about the knowledge path. I've told you about what is Atma, what is Anatma, the knowledge. Buddhi yogam tamamshu. Now you listen to the Buddhi yoga, the karma yoga, how with the right understanding you can do your actions. And if you do buddhya yukto yaya partha, if you do your actions with this right understanding, karma bandham prahasyasi, all this bondage of karma, it is said that karma causes a lot of bondage, and this will be released if you do the karma yoga with the right attitude. And that is the Bhagavan is starting the karma yoga message for Arjuna. He praises the karma yoga and he says nothing goes to waste in this karma yoga. There is no opposite result. Whatever you do, you get the right result. You don't know whether you get the result, how you will get the result, but nothing goes in vain. Whatever little dharma you do, it will liberate you from a great fear. That is what he says. And do all your actions with the right understanding. He tells Arjuna with buddhi, vyavasayatmika buddhi. This vyavasayatmika buddhi is a one-point determined intellect. If you do all your karma with this kind of intellect, then definitely you won't have any bheda. And for people who don't have this kind of a vyavasayatmika buddhi, they have lots of notions, they have several options, they have many discriminations, bheda buddhi. That is called avyavasayinam. He says avyavasay, those who don't have a one-point intellect. And then he describes those people who are constantly into kama and bhoga, those who are all involved all the time in material pleasures. And that he says, yamimam pushpitam vacham, those who speak flowery words, do not think clearly, always veda bhadarata, always debate the Vedas, and they say that there is nothing more to life but just enjoy, work and enjoy, work and enjoy. And those who don't have this any goal in life, they are kamatmana, they always have desires for this, that, other, everything, all the sense objects. And for them, they are involved in too many activities. Kriya Vishesha Bahulam, Bhogeshwarya Gatim Prati. They have a lot of pursued pleasures and power. They want a lot of power and pleasures, sense pleasures. And sense pleasures don't give us the real peace. That is what Bhagavan Shri Krishna is telling us repeatedly in Gita Ji. It says, Bhogeshwarya Prasaktanam. They always pursue the pleasures and the power, and their mind, Daya Payata Chetasam, their mind has been robbed. Vyavasayatmika buddhi does not happen, a proper one-pointed intellect does not happen, and samadhavana vidiyate, they don't get the peace of mind. And then he gives the final message. That's why what we need to do is telling Arjuna, Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Veda describes the three gunas, but Arjun, you nistraigunyo bhava Arjuna, you try to rise above these three gunas, try to understand, go beyond the material realms and understand this final knowledge. And that he says, how is it possible? Nirdvandva bhava, rise above these dualities of the world. Nitya sattvasta bhava, always be clean and inclined towards sattva or devi sampatti, all the virtues. Niryoga kshema, he says, let go of all the yoga, desires of achieving something, and kshema means protecting all our possessions. Let go of all the stress. And fourth, and the most important, atmavan bhava, be the master of yourself. And this Atma Krupa, self, we have to achieve this by our own self. We have to be proactive in the sadhana, in the spiritual journey, with a lot of courage, with a lot of patience, persistence. We have to embark on this journey to get above the Traigunya, rise above Nistraigunyo Bhava Arjuna. He says, rise above the three gunas. By this is how we should rise above them. In the 46th shloka, Bhagavan describes till what time Karma Yoga needs to be done. Till Vidishta Atma Jnana. Says, just like a pond, water is needed till it is overflowed. Similarly, a person needs to do his Karma Yoga till he develops Brahma Jnana, till he attains his divine knowledge, and that is till that time the Vedic Karma are important. And the next shloka, 47th shloka, is the most well-known shloka of Bhagavad Gita. Karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetu buhu mate sangostu karmani. This gives us the four pillars of Karma Yoga, the Chatur Sutri shloka of the Karma Yoga. Karmani eva vikarate. That is the first part, which tells us that my choice is only in the karma that I can do. What I need to do, what I don't want to do, all this is my choice. Ma phaleshu kadachana. My choice is not in the results of these actions. The outcome of the action is not completely under my control. I may be doing the actions, but what I'll get the result, when I'll get the result, how I'll get the result, that is not completely in my hands. Ma karma phala hetur buhu. I should do my actions with the right understanding so that I don't develop bondage to this karma, I don't become intertwined with the right buddhi, the vyavasayatmika buddhi that Bhagavan is talking about in Gita Ji. Mate sangha astu akarmani. Don't get attached to inaction, akarma. We should not become lazy. We should not run away from our problems, because that is not the solution. We have to be in karma, and then we have to learn to do karma with the karma yoga attitude, which Bhagavan describes in third Adhyaya. In the detailed description of all these different attitudes have been described. Here Bhagavan is describing some of the important pillars of the karma yoga. The second, he says samatvam yoga uchyate. Samatva is karma yoga, equanimity in our action, not being attached to the results of the action, being equipoised in success or failure, profit or loss. In all the situations, if we remain equipoised, samatvam yoga uchyate, Bhagavan says. And then he says, you should use our buddhi, our intellect. He says, buddhi yoga dhananjaya. We should do all our actions with understanding. Buddhau sharanam anvicha. We should take the shelter of our buddhi. That is the greatest gift for us from the Lord. And those who work for selfish reasons, they are miser, krupana, phalahetava. Selfish people work for their own selfish interest. But people who work with buddhi, selfless actions are always better. So nishkam karma is much better than sakam karma. That is a part and parcel of karma yoga. And then he says, buddhi yukto jahati. We should do all our karma with the buddhi, commit ourselves. Karma yoga, karma su kaushalam. Cleverness in action is karma yoga, he says. And this does not mean cleverness in outer action. Bhagavan Krishna is not talking about the outer action. He's talking about the attitude behind our outer action. What is that attitude inside? And that itself determines what phala we will get out of these attitudes. That is more important. And karma yoga is important for purity, because that makes us eligible for the Atma Jnana. In the next shloka, he talks about this, that only with this kind of karma yoga we can, by this leaving the attachment, let going the attachment to the fruits of action, we purify our mind. And once our mind is purified, we are liberated from this birth, death. We know our real Atma Swarupa, which does not have any birth, does not have any death. And then padam gachantyam anamayam. We achieve this padam, this anamaya pada, which is the highest self, which is free from all the afflictions, all the disease. And this is what we have to achieve. And how can we achieve this? It shows the twofold steps of the sadhana. The first step is to become eligible for this Atma Jnana. And this is by what is called as the four sadhanas, which is called sadhana chatushtaya sampatti in our Shastra. Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Adi, Shat, Sampatti, and Mumuksha. So these are the four sadhanas which are being described in this shloka. The 52nd shloka, Bhagavan says, Yada te moha kalilam buddhi vyatitarishyati. By this Viveka, if we cross over the mud of delusion, and then tada gantasi nirvedam, then we get the dispassion, the right Vairagya. Shrutavasya, Shrutasya, what we have heard and what we are going to hear. And this has to be the right understanding. This Vairagya has to be with the correct understanding, with the maturity and acceptance. And then once we have become eligible, then the real Gnana sadhana starts, which comprises of three sadhanas, the Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. Shravana, Shruti Vipratipannate, Yada Stasyate Nischala. The Shravana, all the doubts that are created, Shravana have to be relieved by Samadha Vachala Buddhi, by Manana. All the Sanshaya, all the doubts that are created by Shravana. Shravana is listening to this Vedanta Vakya Tatparya from the Guru, who is a learned, who is a Shrotriya and Tattvanishta. And then all the doubts are cleared by Manana. And finally, Nididhyasana means that all this Viparita Sanskara, the Viparyaya, has to be cleared by Atmasat, by assimilating this knowledge in ourself. And that is by doing sadhana, meditation, dhyana, chintana, and all these nididhyasana. Then only one can achieve this wisdom, the sthita prajna, one can become wise. That is what Bhagavan is saying. In the next 18 shlokas, Bhagavan describes the sthita prajna, the person who is firmly determined in wisdom, who is a wise person, and what is his internal attitude, what is his knowledge, what is his paripurna avastha, fullness of his life, complete acceptance, there are no complaints, he is at eternal peace with himself or herself. And for the seekers like us, it becomes like a goalpost for introspection, for milestones for us to reach to those levels. So that is the ultimate goals that Bhagavan is now describing from the 54th shloka. Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna asks the question, he asks 4 questions about Sthita Prajna. He says, what is his ka bhasha? What is his language? Means what are the attributes? Kim prabhashita? How does he speak? Meaning how does he respond to situations in his life? Kim asita? How does he sit? Means what is his mind control? And 4th, Kim Vrajeta? How does he walk? Means what is his conduct in life? And Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the first He says, answer the first question. He says, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. All the desires that come up in the Sthita Prajna, they are with understanding, they are dissolved, they are given up, and he is happy in his own self, Atma Swarupa. He does not have to depend on the outer desires or possessions or achievements for his happiness. That person alone can be called Sthita Prajna. And this itself, the desires are the root cause of most of our miseries, our expectations from others. These are the main cause of our miseries. That is what our Shastras tell us. The second question, what is his response? He is in Samatva. Samatva is a solution to remain in happiness. That is the response. He is not agitated in grief. Dukkeshvanu dignamanaha. But and Sukheshu Vigata Spruha does not have a lot of attachment, longing, or happiness when he gets something, happiness, some object. He does not want that they should come to me again and again. Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. He is free from all these attachments, fear, anger. That person itself is called as Sthita Prajna. And it differentiates between what is love and what is attachment, because it does not, whenever he encounters pleasant or unpleasant circumstances, he retains Samatva, does not have too much of Raga or Dvesha. And then Kimasita talks about Indriya Sanyam. Krishna here starts about Indriya Sanyama just and gives a beautiful example of a turtle. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani vasarvasha. And just as a turtle withdraws all its limbs into its shell, the wise person also withdraws all the sense organs from the objects and remains in firm wisdom. And this shows that he has a lot of self-restraint, he has a lot of awareness and understanding of the intellect. What is the right thing? What does he get? What he wants from this world, and what is his ultimate goal? But finally, even after this Vindriya Sanyam, some rasa will remain. And this rasa can only be destroyed by attaining the supreme divinity. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya rasa varsam rasovajya. Means that rasa param drashtvani vartate. That rasa, that longing, that attachment to that objects will still remain, which can only be relieved by knowing the supreme divinity. And now Bhagavan Shri Krishna is describing what are the power of the senses, the Indriya. Indriya are so powerful. Indriyani pramathini. They are very powerful. Bhavaranti prasabham manaha. They kidnap the mind by force. Even for the person who is making efforts, who is Viveki Purusha, who is a good person, who makes a lot of effort, even for them, it is very difficult to have Indriya Sanyam. And that's why he tells Arjuna, Thani Sarvani Sanyamya. You control all your sense organs, be equipoised, have a firm resolution, surrender to me. Only for a person who has senses under control, their knowledge, Tasya Prajna Pratishtita, Vashehi Yasya Indriyani. If the Indriya Sanyam is there, only then the knowledge becomes deeply ingrained. If we have Indriya goes round and round, we cannot have this knowledge. The next two shlokas, Bhagavan Shri Krishna describes the 8 steps to ruin. Patan ki sidi, jisko bolte, for the asanyami, person who does not have the right understanding, right intellect. What happens? Dhyayato vishayan punsa. He thinks about the objects. We see advertisements. Sangaste shupajayate. Then get attached to this. Sangat sanjayate kama. Gets intense desire. I want this. This has to be with me. This new phone, this new TV, this new car. I must have this bigger house. Kamat krodho vijayate. When his kamana is not fulfilled, he develops anger. Krodho vijayate. So far it is reversible with awareness. But later on, krodhat bhavati sammoha. Anger leads to delusion, moha. Sammohat smruti vibramaha. His memory of all that he knows what is to be done is destroyed. Smruti branchat buddhi nashaha. His intellect is destroyed. And buddhi nashat pranashyati. When our intellect is destroyed, we try to behave in an inhuman method. We cease to become a human being. We resort to violence and things like that. We see daily in newspapers how people resort to suicides, murders, and things like that. That is not befitting a human being. And that is all the steps of our ruinity to leading to ruin. It's what Bhagavan Shri Krishna describes. The fourth question about how is the conduct of this wise person in life, Bhagavan says, is devoid of any raga, dvesha, strong likes, dislikes, and this kind of Atma Sanyama, his self-restrained person, and only this person, Prasadamadi Gachati, can develop an eternal peace within himself or herself, and this is only by the self-restraint can give us this kind of a peace. And what are the benefits of this sense control? He says, Prasare sarva dukkhanam hani rasupajayate. Mind becomes very peaceful, and only prasanna chetaso yashu. When the mind is peaceful, only then the intellect becomes firm, it becomes assimilated in our life. And person does not have a balance, who does not have this kind of restraint, what happens? Ashantasya kutah sukham. That person who is Ashanta, who has lot of Ashanti, lots of stress, lots of tensions, worries, emotions, lots of, how can he be ever happy in life? Bhagavan says. And then again, Bhagavan is describing, Shri Krishna is describing the power of the senses, Indriyanam Vicharatam. The senses keep roaming in the objects, also kidnaps the mind and the intellect, just like a wind blows away the boat. And that's why it tells us to be aware of our sense, and again emphasizes the importance of sense control. Tasmadasya mahabaho nigruhitani sarvasha. Control all your sense organs, he says. Only then your tatsya prajna pratishtita. Again, he tells Arjuna that only then our knowledge will become firm. And finally, he is describing the difference in the vision between the wise and unwise person. It's a difficult shloka to understand, but in a nutshell, towards the world, the unwise people are always awake. They always want things in this world, whereas the wise is asleep towards the world. They are not bothered. They don't want these possessions. Towards the truth, the eternal truth, the wise people is awake, constantly wants to have that supreme divinity, whereas the unwise does not understand this truth. And that's why we are all towards, and that is the meaning of this shloka. And then describes the inner state of the wise person, just like an ocean, where all the rivers keep filling up with water, but still the ocean remains full. Similarly, even when all the desires come in this Sthita Prajna wise person, it does not create any change in that person, and that person is in real bliss and operates and works also out of this real bliss, does not have any desires, and that is the nature of that wise person. And then in the final two shlokas of the second Adhyaya, Bhagavan is telling us what we need to do, what should be our journey. Vihaya kamanya sarvan. We should let go of all our binding desires. Humans sharati nispruhaha. We should live without any attachments, longings. Nirmamaha. Without any attachments of all this that is my. Nira ahankara. Ahankara is our biggest problem, our biggest obstacle, that ego, that pride, that I am this, I am this person, or I have this so much power, I am so educated, I am from such a good family, I am so good. All this kind of ahankara, that we have to let go of everything. Only then, sashanti madhigachyate, only then we will get eternal peace. And that is what we want. And then finally, in the last shloka, Bhagavan describes the real ultimate goal of our mankind. He says, Esha Brahmasthiti Partha. Arjuna, this Brahmasthiti, this Brahman state, this eternal Brahman, this final Nanam Prapya Vimuhyati. Once you get this, there is no going back to attachment, moha, sansara. It does not come back. Even if one achieves this state at the end of life, Sthitva Syam Antakalepi, Brahma Nirvana Murchati, one attains Brahma Nirvana, freedom, moksha, which is the final solution to all the problems, and it has to be achieved in this very human life. It is possible to achieve this kind of moksha, and then there is no going back to this world. There is no other births, there is no death, nothing. So this Sthita Prajna, the firm wisdom that is for the Gnani, for the wise person, it is very, very sahaja. For the person like us, the seekers, it has to be prayatna purvaka. We have to attain, it requires a lot of efforts to attain this. For the seeker, these are like, it's a guide. These kind of Sthita Prajna attributes keep us on our track. And these milestones are very important for us to reach. Indra Sanyam that Bhagavan talks about, the self-restraint, all this is very important for us to reach our goal. With this, we come to the end of the second Adhyaya. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Sankhya Yoga Nama Dvitiyodhyaya. I pray to the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible, this Guru Shishya Parampara, through which this knowledge is preserved, protected, and transmitted so as to reach us. Pay my respects and tributes to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and share this understanding with you. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parah Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.